Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Saladino. It's amazing how much, cancel pigs, activists, how much they've destroyed Star Wars. Star Wars is relatively simple to get right. As long as you get the aesthetic, the look right, as long as you have, the continuity, the lore right, you should be able to hit home runs all the time. It has a particular formula, and if you just keep building on it and maybe doing some variations on it, you'll be fine. But this ideology where what they're doing has nothing to do with actually making Star Wars, because it can't be that hard. If you lack creative talent, yeah, it's going to be hard. If you can't tell a story, if you can't write good characters and good dialogue, yeah, that's going to be a problem. If you can't come up with a good plot, that could be a problem, particularly for Star Wars, because it's more of a genre piece, so you should be able to do plot with it. There's a lot of great films that don't need plot. But if you have a problem immediately with strong men, with self-confidence, with someone dealing with adverse situations with humor and sarcasm and self-deprecation, then you're going to mess it up. It's funny to me. So you got this article. So is Star Wars Outlaws creative director Julian Garrity explains why he describes Vess as a much more modern protagonist. So it's 2024. There's no one out there, especially developers, content creators, artists. None of them are blissfully unaware of what it means when you say modern protagonist or modern audience. At this point, when you say something like that, it's not just a red flag, but it's you literally putting a stake in the ground, right? You're drawing a line in the sand. It's shots fired. It's essentially, to me at this point, modern audience and modern protagonist. It's a slur. It's a slur in the same way as, being a trans activist and calling a regular person who doesn't suffer from dysphoria, doesn't have, this weird confusion and this weird need to destroy the patriarchy and destroy gender norms, cis. So cis is a slur in that sense where there's not enough trans people in the world. There's not enough people pretending to be non-binary and all this stuff for that to be a distinction, to be like, well, there's trans people and non-binary people, and then there are cis people. No, there's just regular people, and then there are people who are trans, and people who pretend to be non-binary, and people who pretend to be trans. But if you're making a Star Wars game, and you're supposed to have a huge audience of fans, but you say, actually, this is made for a modern audience, or this fake rip-off version of Han Solo that we made, who's just happens to be a woman all of a sudden. I say all of a sudden because there's constantly women now leading Star Wars. They all recognize, the people who do this all recognize, like I said, even with Disney bought Star Wars because it's a boys brand. And Iger brings it to Disney, and then these idiots decide, okay, this is a boys brand. That's the problem with Star Wars. We could make it better if we start making it more about women and more about people of color. And then they ruin everything that everybody loved about it because it's not organic and natural. It's not the new Star Wars trilogy had, a Latino and a black man and a woman, but they screwed it all up because they couldn't just do the same stories, the same type of stories, work within the Star Wars universe. And it just happens to now have, a black guy, Latin guy, and a woman. No, it's defeat the male gaze. It's destroy the patriarchy. It's Mary Sue. So again, this article that Park Place put out, which is referencing comments made in a Game Informer article where this creative director says, Vess is a much more modern protagonist. And in saying that, his version of a modern protagonist is she's somebody who's very much a street thief who gets thrown into things that are beyond her control and that she kind of has to think her way out of. And that makes it a little bit more relatable than somebody who has all the confidence and sarcasm and just comes off as somebody who is not believable. Now, this is obvious shade to Han Solo. And it's absurd that they would do that. This is the crazy thing about cancel pigs and activists who are taking over popular genres, popular franchises, popular hobbies, and then acting like what they're doing is better than what's made this stuff popular. Who in their right mind believes that Han Solo is not relatable? And somebody said this in the Reddit thread that posted a link to this article, saying it's funny that these people, these activists, these cancel pigs, they're so screwed up in the head that they think someone having confidence is unbelievable and not relatable. You have the Sweet Baby Inks of the world doing this sensitivity reading stuff where they smooth out the rough edges because they're overly sensitive. They have anxiety. They're dealing with issues about, the patriarchy, where Batman, Bruce Wayne, can't be a billionaire anymore. Like, they think it's wrong for Batman to be a billionaire. Like, him having that money. I talked about this in a video a long time ago, where it's like the thing they did to Iron Man. It's like the reason why Iron Man is a billionaire is because it allows him to produce the technology he needs to create his Iron Man armors and all that stuff. Like, it has nothing to do with like you not liking Elon Musk. But these people, they're miserable. And that's the thing. So they're like, I'm going to make my own version of Han Solo and make her a woman. She's going to be trans friendly, but I'm going to make her a woman. And she's a street thief. And she gets thrown to things that are beyond her control. And she's going to be more relatable than snarky Han Solo. But Han Solo is one of the most iconic characters in all of fiction. Star Wars is the biggest franchise. It was the biggest creative franchise in the world at one time. It's been destroyed thanks to Disney, but it's like, if Han Solo wasn't relatable, if people didn't like Han Solo, how did Star Wars get so popular? How did Han get so popular? If they think it's not relatable for someone to be confident and have sarcasm, and Han Solo clearly deals with things beyond his control. That's his whole arc. His entire arc in the first trilogy is dealing with things beyond his control. The fact that he owes Jabba money, the fact that he doesn't really want to be dragged into the rebel fight, dealing with Leia, how he got caught and frozen and all that stuff. Like, okay, so That Park Place did this article and they said stupid stuff. Not That Park Place, but the people who talked about this. There's Garrity who made these dumb things about, she's more relatable. This Vess character is because she's a petty thief and a rookie. Who do they know in this modern audience they're trying to appeal to? Who these people who don't find Han Solo relatable? Who are they thinking are petty thieves? And this is just a rookie, a petty thief who's now ends up in a situation that's much bigger than they expected. I find, how many women out there do they really think care about Star Wars where they're going to look at Vess, who looks like a dude, and they're going to go, I relate to her more because as a woman, I feel like I look like a man. I feel like I'm just a petty thief. And that's the thing, being a petty thief is what these cancel pigs are. These activists who are taking over these once beloved franchises that appeal largely to a male fan base. They're the petty thieves who, again, he throws shade at Han Solo, but all he did was make a female Han Solo who looks almost as manly as Han does. So That Park Place did this where they quoted what this guy said. Somebody else came along. Game director Matthias Carlson also claimed Vess is relatable because she's not a Jedi. So that's another thing. Carlson said, I think it's very relatable as a human being on planet Earth that this character doesn't have any magical powers or properties beyond her daring, her skills, her tools, and her buddy Nix. And again, so Star Wars is Jedis for the most part. It's the Force. There's a lot of different things, but this hatred of Jedis, because it's usually men, and Luke in particular, who they hate and despise, because he's such a powerful icon to young men everywhere. He's the quintessential, hero's journey. That's what Luke goes on. And that sort of thing, like the way Jordan Peterson appeals to young men, like this idea of taking on the challenge and having responsibility, clean up your room, get your shit together. As a man, men do like that. Whereas typically women feel like, it's too much for me. I can't handle that. They try to do this thing where I'm a strong woman and I don't need no man. But it is related to a man. It's like, I'm going to counter what I'm supposed to get from the patriarchy by being a strong woman. But it doesn't have anything to do with a personal inner drive a lot of times. At least the way feminists talk about it and push it. So you got this idiot, Matthias Carlson, acting like, it's more relatable for people on Earth to not like people with lightsabers and, using the Force and that kind of thing. Yet Star Wars was at one point the biggest franchise in the world. So somebody liked and related to Jedis. And to pretend that, and this is the thing, this is the whole thing about, again, having these activists and these idiots who don't care about this stuff, working on this stuff. They don't understand it, or they do understand it, but they don't like it. So, but they're being forced to work on it, or they're forcing themselves into the hobby to destroy it. And so they're tearing down what makes these things work. And then they get mad at us when we say, no, that's not how this is supposed to be. And they pretend, well, we put this ugly woman in it, and you're just sexist because you don't want women existing in Star Wars, when that is not the case. And so somebody else said something stupid. What's this woman's name? Martha Yonkers also confirmed the company and its employees spent a significant amount of time designing the character, especially her look. And that's what's so funny when they say they spent so much time designing the character and her look. So they hired a woman, a very attractive woman, to scan to be the model for this Vess character. But then they spent a lot of time destroying how the woman actually looks so they can make this trans-friendly character. And it's funny. So you could say they spent a lot of time on her outfit, but her outfit just looks like a ripoff of something Han would wear. Melanie Mack just recently did a video where she's channeling her inner Brittany Venti, where she goes on to talk about color palette and the design of Vess, how the look and color of Vess's outfit versus her hair color versus her skin color, that kind of thing. She did this whole kind of makeover tutorial where she talked about these elements that this Yonkers woman says they spent so much time working on. So Yonkers goes, we put a lot of care into her design and what she's wearing and how she looks to tell her story. She has a lot of elements in her design that tell a bit of her story. For example, she has a broken nose. She's been through a lot. You can see that she has scars and stuff. Why would anybody want to see a woman with a broken nose? Now, you can have certain women characters look tough and rough and tumble and go through a lot. That's fine. But to make her less feminine and say, oh, she's just street tough with a broken nose, especially in the Star Wars universe. I guess she's poor. She don't have enough money for cosmetic surgery or whatever. I don't know. To fix her nose properly. I don't know. They can replace your damn hand if it's got cut off by a lightsaber, but they can't fix your broken nose. Whatever. I don't care about that. But it's just kind of funny that they make these choices to make her less feminine and to make her uglier than the woman they scanned for the character. So it's just funny. They also go into this dumb thing, this Jonkers woman, where she goes, she also has a hairpin. I love that element because she uses that to lockpick doors, and you can use that from the beginning to do some thieving. And it's so stupid. Like, this is sci-fi or like space fantasy. Nobody wants to use a hairpin to do thieving. They want to use a sonic screwdriver or something to open up special fancy locked doors and electronic boxes and stuff. They don't want to just go, oh, she's got a hairpin, just like here on Earth. It's so relatable that she just uses a hairpin to do some thieving. And so this article from That Part Place focuses on the comments about Vess being this, modern protagonist. So I looked at the Game Informer article where they were talking about this more, and it's so pointless. This isn't Star Wars. This has nothing to do with Star Wars. It's people who don't like Star Wars working on Star Wars. And it's funny how they go, as you navigate the galaxy in Star Wars Outlaws, you do so as Vess, a pickpocket turned thief who gets in over her head and winds up with a bounty on her head. Early in conversations, Lucasfilm Games and developer Massive Entertainment agreed that telling a scoundrel story was the way to go. Through these discussions, Massive decided it wanted to portray a resourceful underdog for its main character, rather than the trained soldiers that star in the division. In the various meetings with Lucasfilm Games, Massive Entertainment looked at the various archetypes available to players in the Star Wars tabletop RPGs, including Jedi, spies, operatives, and more. Massive wanted to create a game with a unique perspective within that universe. Several games put you in the shoes of lightsaber-wielding Jedi or the Empire-fighting rebel, but fewer let you play as the archetype that stuck out to Massive, the scoundrel. In the Star Wars galaxy, the scoundrel is personified by Han Solo. But even though this story takes place during the original trilogy, Massive didn't want to retread that ground by making a Han Solo game. Not once did that come up, creative director Julian Garrity says. We wanted to tell different stories with different main actors as well, with women and POCs. And the thing is, this idea that they're retreading it. This is the universe. These are the people whose stories people care about. This is why Star Wars was such a popular franchise, because we love Han Solo, Luke, Leia, etc. So to do this thing where it's like, it didn't even come up. Not once. Of course it didn't come up. That's like, it only came up to say, we're not doing that. We're just going to make a girl version of that. We're going to smash the patriarchy by making a more relatable character who's this ugly, trans-friendly woman that we're putting in place of Han Solo. She's going to be Han Solo, but she's going to be a woman and a person of color. So that will make her automatically better. And it's so stupid. we wanted to tell different stories with different main actors as well. Get the hell out of here. This was all done to further destroy the patriarchy, to destroy this boy's brand. And then for them, like, okay, so Ubisoft themselves, they're not helping their case any by letting Massive work on this game and provide an ugly woman for it. And she's not appealing. It's not somebody that you know or care about. And the thing is, when you see this woman, besides her looks, you're just thinking, this is Han Solo. Just give us a Han Solo game. So people are already going to be against it. But then you have the nerve as Ubisoft to charge so much, to do all this nonsense with these different pricing tiers, and to do stuff like, well, yeah, you love Jabba, right? So we're going to make a game about a character you don't know and won't really care about because she's clearly just a ripoff of a character you do care about. But then we're going to put characters that you know in it, but we're going to hide them behind extra paywalls. It's like the Suicide Squad thing. It's like, why make skins of Harley if none of them make Harley look like the Harley we all know from the original Arkham trilogy, where she's sexy and hot? Why would you think that people are going to spend extra money? And it's like, well, I don't want this as it is. You want me to spend more money for more of it? So I don't know. And you look at Massive themselves, it's just so stupid. You go to their website and all they are is just a bunch of LGBTQ activists. Like, you look at, like, as soon as you go there, you see pride flags, pride colors. You see these soy boys and goofy looking, all soy facing out. It's like a parody of what you expect the people who work on this stuff look like now. And then you had that thing where those pictures of some of the employees speaking out against, I don't know, whatever they were speaking out against. So this was the worst one of these, I don't know, these employees who are doing this thing, what is it called? Each for Equality, hashtag Each for Equality. And they're doing this stupid, I guess that's the international symbol for equality where they're holding their hands. And so besides this woman talking about emotional labor, the worst one was the guy who looked sort of like, I don't know, John Lovitz or something with the painted fingernails. If you look like John Lovitz, don't have painted fingernails. You just look stupid. Like, rarely can men pull off the the painted fingernails. I know Hassan tries to do it too. He looks like a clown. Like, you have to have a certain gender bending look. You have to have that 80s new wave band look to pull off the painted fingernails. Not just look like some weirdo. Because you look like a weirdo. Like, this guy looks like a weirdo with the painted fingernails, just being this slob of a guy doing this. But the worst one by far was this woman. I think it was Kyle or somebody who called her Wednesday Addams. I forgot who called her Wednesday Addams. But this thing about not having to do other people's emotional labor, which is insane that they do this. And the first time I heard this expression was related to Star Wars, how somebody, and I can't find that tweet, I've been looking for that tweet forever, where somebody was mad at the scene in Star Wars after Obi-Wan is killed by Darth Vader, and they've gotten away. Leia goes to put her hand, a consoling hand, on Luke, who's feeling down and bad and mourning then, Obi-Wan's death. I think this person was trans. I don't know, but I remember them complaining about the fact that Leia goes in and puts her consoling hand on Luke. I think that's how it happened. She just consoles him. I think she doesn't really say much to him. She just goes and say, man, I feel you, dog. It's a shame that Obi-Wan, we watched him die right in front of us. I know you feel bad. But this asshole who posted this tweet was complaining about it, saying that Leia was having to do emotional labor just because she was showing her human kindness and human gratitude. So the thing is, Leia went, put her hand on this guy's shoulder, whatever she said, I can't remember it. But she basically was just being a decent person, saying, I know you feel bad. What we saw was horrible. I called for this person to save us. He came along with you and Han and Chewie, whatever, and you saved me. I appreciate that. But no, to this asshole who posted this tweet, made it about sexism and misogyny, talking about Leia watched her whole planet get blown up. And yet she has to do the emotional labor to console a guy who watched some dude he just knew for a couple of days die in front of him. Like, how inhuman and stupid is that? This is why a lot of narratives by cancel pigs are so messed up, because they think everything has equal weight. This whole thing about equity and equality. They want all the women to have the same amount of lines as all the men, even if it doesn't work with the story. It's like people who were trying to attack Tarantino for Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate not having as many lines as Brad Pitt and Leo has. And it's like, that's not how you tell stories, where the woman has to have the same amount of lines. What if those lines don't fit in the story? This is the thing, this idea that we have to see Leia mourning. Luke is mourning someone he knew and saw. Doesn't matter how. And the thing is, you talk about you want men to be vulnerable and show emotion. Luke does. And then this asshole comes along and says him showing emotion for somebody he only knew for a couple of days is not as valid as Leia, who should be shown mourning the death of billions of people and the death of her homeworld or whatever. It's like, you people are sociopaths. In this whole mentality, that's what drives what goes into so much of this geek stuff, which goes into Star Wars, which goes into the Star Wars Outlaws nonsense. We made Han Solo a woman. Therefore, she's more relatable to people who don't actually care about Star Wars. Star Wars is already the biggest thing in the world, like I keep saying. But now, because we put a woman in it, it's supposed to be somehow even better. These people are crazy. There's no modern audience. This isn't a modern protagonist. He's literally a ripoff of Han Solo. And if making a woman who looks like a man, who's a ripoff of a man, is modern, then let's just stick to classic, iconic characters.